Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today I have life coaching guru Hugh Todd, and he's going to teach you guys how to identify and get out of either a rut or getting out of a comfort zone. So without further ado, let me welcome Hugh Todd.
Good day to you, Tommy. And I'm here with Tom Cochran, who is a fitness guru. He's my trainer. He looks after my physical health, my spiritual health in a lot of different ways as well, and in a couple of different ways. So nice to be here today, Tom. Um, there's a really interesting thing that happens to all of us at different times. Some more than others. We get into a comfort zone. It isn't necessarily a comfortable place. And what I want to do today is to well, Tom and I think we'll just share some stories to illustrate what happens where people are. And I'm going to use this diagram just to talk us through the difference between being stuck and what happens to us when we're stuck, especially long term. How to break out of that, and how to build a really dynamic growth pattern in our lives long term. Whoever we are, whatever age we're at, whatever our abilities, I find this a really good framework when I'm working with clients, with friends, with anyone, to identify where we are.
Sounds fantastic.
Now, um, there's a sneaky thing about being in a comfort zone. Where we want to feel that we're really competent. We know what's in front of us every day. We know that we're good at our jobs. We know that we're looking after the family, whatever it is that we're doing. We're on top of the job. We're on the case, and we know exactly what's going to happen. And we know we're going to do a good job. Um, what happens though is that when we don't stretch ourselves, when we don't break out of that and try new things, what sneaks up on us is a really gradual loss of self confidence. We start to doubt ourselves more. And if anybody asks us to take on more responsibility, change our habits, do something in a different way, we become really quite resistant to that. Come across this all, in all sorts of different situations. But quite an extreme one, for example, would be if somebody's in an abusive relationship. Uh, it is in a way a comfort zone because you know what to expect every day and you know you're surviving it. And sometimes it feels harder to break out of that and get into a different way of life, break away from that relationship. It means that you're losing some of your other stability zones, like where am I going to live? Where's the money going to come from? What happens to the kids? And all of those things, you lose confidence in your ability to deal with all of those other challenges. And so you stay in that situation. And you might call that being stuck in a rut, because there are a lot of people who really want to escape their situation. They want to get more responsibility. They want to get a promotion. They want to live a different kind of life. But circumstances are preventing that from happening. Now, I do a lot of work with women, empowering women in their careers, and that's often called the glass ceiling, where the women butt up against the glass ceiling. The comfort zone, though, is what I would call the sticky floor, where that inner critic, the little voice inside, says, "You're not ready yet. Maybe next year. Maybe you just need to get a little bit more experience to really be ready for this." Uh, and there's a comfort zone thing about just stay doing what you're doing, keep the head down, keep doing a really good job, and maybe next year, maybe next month, maybe next year, I'll be ready for that change to take on that bigger challenge. You come across this yourself, Tom?
Just from my experience, absolutely. I can remember being I think it was with my first girlfriend. It was a very comfortable relationship. It was very easy just to sit back and not have to look at life and really push myself in certain areas. And I was just cruising for a couple of years. And then when she left, it was a big wake up call. And after being in that little bubble and then it burst, all of a sudden there was this new world. And for the first few weeks, I was very timid and very much unsure about how to go about it. And then after that, it was the most liberating, freeing experience of my life. And I was able to do so many different things, going overseas, driving my car, dating lots of women, changing my career path. So many different things just really kickstarted from that one experience.
So you needed to have enough self-belief to make the breakthrough.
Definitely. And
And,
just, yeah,
and from that point, you knew that you had the ability to make more of yourself, and you recognized that you
absolutely.
had more potential.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that happens when you're stuck in a rut. We tend to doubt our own potential. We stick to doing routine experiences, the routine habits, the things we do every day. We use our existing skills and behaviors to deal with everything. And we're quite resistant to learning new things
Mm.
because that's a bit challenging. But the thing that I really notice is that people are closed to feedback
Mm.
in this state, because if you give somebody encouragement that they're doing a great job, but they're doing really well with what they're doing, well, it could sound a little patronising, or it'll be received as patronising. But there's also a little bit of fear there that if you're doing too well, you're going to be asked to step up and take more responsibility. So people go, no, no, not me. I'm not really that good. You're just giving me a pat on the back. All of those kind of things. And if you give somebody a bit of criticism, make some suggestions about how they could do things better or differently, that just reinforces the self-image that they're not ready for more responsibility, for change, for dealing with things. So you notice that with feedback that people in a comfort zone in particular will be quite resistant. They'll find all sorts of ways to doubt or deny what you're saying.
Mm.
Now, making a breakthrough, breaking out of that state of mind, here's the difficult thing, because everyone of us is unique, and even at different stages in our lives, we are in different situations. We have different kinds of things that we need to break out of. So I can't really be too helpful in saying what's going to motivate people to make that breakthrough. Um, what I would say is that it's better not to wait until it's a big trauma that leads. But if that's what it takes, when you then realize that something significant has really shifted, maybe you've lost somebody in your life, or you've lost your job or whatever. Sometimes it takes that much for people to realize, well, it isn't an option anymore, and now I need to get out there and do things. Can I share a story with you from quite a few years ago?
Go for it.
Uh, when I lived in Scotland, in fact, this is probably 25, 30 years ago, I lived in Dundee in Scotland. And it was a lovely story about a woman in her 70s. Now, she'd done the traditional thing. Although she was quite bright, she left school at 14. She married very young, and her whole life was about being a traditional housewife. She raised a family, raised the kids, looked after her husband, cooked the meals. She became a grandmother, and her whole life was about supporting her husband and family in the traditional way. But when she was 70, her husband died. Her kids were grown up, they had their own families, they didn't really need her anymore. So when she was 70, she decided it was time to get on with the things that she'd always wanted to do. She did two things. One was she signed up with the Open University to study for a degree. And the other thing is that she took up karate. And 6 years later, she had a degree and a black belt.
Unreal.
Now, although that's great, I always thought, well, wouldn't it have been great if she'd done that when she was younger? And what a great role model she'd have been for her kids, for the next generations, and maybe even for her husband, in just fulfilling her potential. And I suppose my message is, don't wait. If you feel that you're in a comfort zone or you're stuck, get motivated. The longer you leave it, the harder it is to break out. The less confidence you're going to have in achieving it, and the harder and harder it's going to get. The bigger a shift you're going to have to make to be able to break through. So don't tolerate your own ability to put things off. Just say, right, now's the time. It's time to get on and make some changes. Having a coach, having somebody else in your life that encourages you to shift is always very helpful. But what I'd like to do is just to talk through the things that you can then do once you're motivated to make that shift and it's time to make a change, whatever it is. Here are some things to pay attention to. First of all, hey, I really do have more potential. Things could be better. Things could be different. If I only made some changes, is the starting point. So let's move on. The next thing is getting curious and saying, well, what ideas are out there? How can I lead people differently? How could I communicate better? What else could I learn? How can I improve my health? Um, Whatever it might be, you need to get out there, find some ideas. Now, some people find their ideas online, uh, listening to podcasts. Some people it's reading books or magazines. It might be watching a TV program that's something relevant to the topic. It might be having conversations with your friends over dinner. It might be going to a seminar or a course, or get some training. There's 1,000 different ways of finding some ideas about how you can move things forward. What I find though is that very often people don't digest those ideas properly. So what I'd really encourage is that if you find, Tommy, even yourself, if you found an idea, something that you were really wanting to develop, you could do two things. One is talk about it with your buddies, because then instead of it being somebody else's theory or idea, you've turned it into your own language and you're relating it to yourself and your life story and the things you want to do. The other thing would be to maybe write it down, turn it into your words by taking some notes in a notebook, make a journal about the ideas that you think are worth keeping. And again, what happens here is you don't copy it out word for word from wherever you saw it. Think about the idea and write it down in your own words. And that's a way of digesting the idea and making it your own. Turn it into your own language, your own image, your own pictures of what it looks like and feels like. Now, the next thing is when you've found what you think are some really useful ideas, then there's a mindset thing, which is being prepared to experiment and try things and sometimes find they don't work as well as you wanted them to. Maybe they don't work at all. And there's a mindset here about, well, if I don't try, I'm never going to make progress. So you've got to have the confidence to realize you're not necessarily going to get it right first time. And in some of the companies I work with, they have this, everything's got to be done right first time. And what that creates is a really, the company is stuck in a rut because nobody will try anything new. They'll only try something that they know 100% is going to work, which is very, very limiting. So people individually should be prepared to have the support around about them to go and try things.
I was just thinking about Google. Then they really want their staff to push the boundaries and think outside the square, and really focus on that creative aspect of learning. And obviously, there'll be failures and all that sort of stuff, but it's encouraged rather than frowned upon.
That's right. And the great thing with trying things is that if you learn something from the attempt, you've made progress. It's a positive every single time. So get out there, try things, stuff it up sometimes, laugh about it, learn from it, and move forward. The next thing, though, is that I see people finding these great ideas. They've been on a training course or something. They've come away. They think this is the absolute answer. This is definitely going to work. I've tried it. I know it's going to work, and they think that's it. They can sit back and relax. But actually, it's not our default position, because when we get under stress, when we're next in a crisis, we go back to our comfort zone. We go back to the things that are our default way of doing things. So once you find a really good idea, a good way of doing something, a good new, what you'd like to have is a new routine, a new habit, you've got to stick to it. And typically you have to repeat that behavior 21 to 30 times to make that your default way of doing things. When even when you're under pressure, that's the way you're going to do it. So the next thing to do is to really is to have the mindset of perseverance. Is to not believe that you haven't really got it yet. So I really encourage people to do things every day for a month as a way of changing a habit. So, for example, if you wear a watch, try changing the wrist that you put it on. When you get up in the morning, put your watch on a different wrist. And I reckon it would take you at least 21 days for that to become second nature. I tried this to see if it was true. And I thought I'd cracked it after about 15 days, that it was automatically going on the other hand. Then I was out walking the dog one day, and I thought, I better get back. I wonder what the time is. And I looked at the wrong wrist. I looked at the old wrist. I thought, damn it, I forgot to put my watch on today. And then I slapped my forehead. Went, no, it's on the other wrist. I still was in the habit of looking for the time on the other wrist. So, and that's with something simple like changing where you put a wrist. If you're changing a behavior, changing the way you communicate or listen, or the way you exercise, behave, building in an exercise routine into your day, you've got to persevere for about a month for that to become what your mind and body and spirit really expect, and you miss it if you don't do it. One more thing here, um, feedback. When people are in this developmental growth pattern, um, they're typically much more open to feedback because praise is encouragement, and people think, yes, it's really working out to try new things, trying to really fulfill my potential. And criticism is taken as another idea. Fantastic. Here's another idea. Here's something else that I can explore and think about, experiment with, and see if that helps me to get better. It's so much easier to give somebody feedback when they're already in a growth pattern compared to being in a comfort zone or stuck. So that's the pattern. What happens then is that people get in the habit of it's a lifelong thing, being on this development curve. And as the story you were saying yourself about breaking out of that relationship earlier in your life, releasing you to try all sorts of other things, is what we really look for. Um, but let me just wave a little flag for you, Tommy. Sooner or later, you're going to get into a comfort zone again. It creeps up on you, and there may be a stage where you stop stretching yourself, where you're consolidating. That's fine for a spell.
Yep.
But just be very aware that if you do that too long, well, you've got a choice. You can be in that comfort zone. Things are very successful for you. You're gonna be losing your confidence in your own ability to stretch yourself again, and it's a choice. But I would recommend that you keep in the habit of always finding something new. You always have more potential, and whenever you've achieved that level of potential, you'll find that you have opened up another layer
exponentially,
and on you go again.
Mm.
So I hope that makes some sense. I hope the people that are listening to your webinar find some value in that, Tommy.
Absolutely.
I've got a couple of suggestions about where next. In the middle of the page here, a fantastic website that I came across, 30daychallenges.net, was set up by a guy who set himself a 30-day challenge to create a website. And it's a free community website where anybody can go on, register, and set up a 30-day challenge for themselves. And other people can join them. So it may be, go to the website, have a look. There are lots and lots and lots of suggestions there. If you don't find what you're looking for, then you can create your own. Or alternatively, why not try a different one of those challenges every day for 30 days? And just as in the way of doing something different every day, it could even be that for 30 days you go a different way to work. You find a different way of getting to work every single day, so that you're constantly breaking your patterns, doing things in different ways. It's a terrific way to start. Another suggestion, another offer, is if people want to drop me an email. I have an article which has a copy of the diagram that we use today, but also talks more about the kind of problems that people experience, and with a whole bunch of ideas for breaking out of comfort zones or getting away from being stuck in a rut, or alternatively, the glass ceiling and sticky floor issue, very, very similar. So if people would like to get a copy of that, drop me an email. And as soon as I can, bearing my work-life balance in mind, I'll send back a copy. Just mention Tom Cochrane, and you're looking for the, the comfort zones or stuck in a rut article, and I'll happily send that on.
Fantastic. So thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. Once again, I am Tommy Cochran, and that was Hugh Todd, and we hope to see you in the next one. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Tom.